Energetic, charismatic, with a confident voice, able to convey the excitement of the game, highlight key details, and engage the audience. UFC 319 Review: The Boar's Era begins. What is up, everybody? And what a story we just witnessed. Chimaev finally gets his title shot against Dricus Du Plessis. So what the hell just happened? We saw a vicious debut from Aaron Pico, a straight-up brawl between Prates and Neal, a tactical war between MVP and Cannonier. That's right, you've landed on the UFC 319 review, and I'm about to break down all the incredible action from tonight. Do me a favor and smash that like button. Seriously, it helps a ton. All right, let's get into it. But hold on, that's not all. We've got a stacked card coming up in China. Walker versus Zhang, Ortega versus Sterling, Pavlovich versus some unskilled dude they pulled off the street. Then we got Imavov versus Baralho in a Keitel eliminator for a shot at Chimaev. And after that, Lopez versus Gene Silva. Bottom line, it's going to be absolute fire. Let's kick things off with the legendary veteran, the man himself, Edson Barboza. A virtuosic striker with those lightning-fast leg kicks and still... And folks, this one almost made me sick. Barboza starts chopping away with low kicks, and Dricus Plessis immediately realizes he's in deep trouble and just ties him up in the clinch. And in the clinch, get this, he starts stomping his heel on Barboza's big toe. Over and over. The entire fight was basically this. Yeah, Plessis landed a couple of decent shots with his hands, but it was mostly clinching and that pathetic heel stomping. It was painful and impossible to watch. And you know what he does at the end, with his own foot now bright red? He puts his hands down, Max Holloway style, and calls for a brawl. Dude, you spent 14 minutes clinching for dear life, poking him with your heel, and now you get brave? It was disgusting to watch. As for Barboza, yeah, the man is almost 40. The spinning kicks aren't there anymore. He got tired fast, but he still put in a decent night's work, chewing up the legs and body of this no-name across from him. But the judges were not on his side tonight and gave the win to God knows who. Up next, we had Alexander Hernandez versus Chase Hooper. Hernandez hasn't exactly been setting the world on fire lately. His career is a total roller coaster. A bunch of losses, then a sudden win streak. He's basically a solid, well-rounded gatekeeper. But Hooper, he was coming in on a 5-fight win streak. His striking is getting better, and his jiu-jitsu is just nasty. The kid's got a ton of subs in the UFC already. He even managed to dismantle Borchev, Gaida, and the legend Jim Miller. But this one was over fast. Hooper starts throwing kicks, lots of front kicks, but Alex is moving great and counters him perfectly. Boom, boom! All of Chase's takedown attempts got stuffed, but Hernandez's attacks were landing clean. In the final seconds of the first round, he explodes forward, and a massive right hand to the chin floors Hooper. The young prospect goes down and gets finished with some absolutely merciless ground and pound. Wow! That's the Alex Hernandez we love to see, when he's smart, disciplined, and has a game plan. Then we saw Jared Mearshart take on Mikhail Oleksichuk, a classic striker versus grappler matchup. Mearshart is a crafty veteran, and his bread and butter is, of course, his jiu-jitsu. Yeah, he's been losing a lot lately, but if you make one mistake and end up on the mat with him, it's game over. Mikhail, on the other hand, is a heavy-handed puncher, but he seems to have only watched wrestling on TV, and it's held his career back. Mikhail came out pressuring hard, letting his hands go. Jared immediately shot for a takedown, but he seemed to forget that being a BJJ master doesn't make you a wrestler. He tried once, missed. Twice, missed again. Oleksichuk just circled away easily as Mearshart stumbled to the mat. And at one point, the Polish powerhouse just cracks him, gets him rocked, and pounds him out for the first round finish. It's simple, really. How do you beat a jiu-jitsu guy? Don't grapple with him. He probably can't take you down anyway. Next up was another interesting one. Bason Gore Baki Chemsudadan versus Eric Nolan. And why was this interesting? Who are these guys? Well, get this. Baki was taking his second fight in 4 days. He just fought on Dana White's Contender Series, got the contract, and immediately asked for a fight tonight. He's also a close buddy of Khamzat Chimaev, so they couldn't really say no. His opponent was no slouch either. Eric Nolan, a finisher, a knockout artist, also making his debut and riding a 4-fight win streak. Baki came out super confident, throwing kicks and punches, trying to get the early finish. He even rocked Nolan with a head kick.
But Eric fired back, landing some clean shots of his own and stunning Baki for a moment. The second round, though, was a different story. Baki throws a low kick that buckles Nolan's leg, injuring it, and they both go down. Baki takes the back, controls him, unloads some vicious ground and pound for a couple of minutes, sinks in the rear naked choke, and gets the finish. What can you say? A phenomenal debut. 2 fights in 4 days is just wild and a massive hype builder. Congratulations. Kicking off the main card, we had Tim Elliott versus Kaya Sakura. Elliott is the aging veteran who's still got it. He can wrestle, he can brawl. He doesn't fight often, but he beat Tagir Ulanbek, and his last loss was to Muhammad Makayev. Kaya Sakura is the UFC newcomer. This is the former Reason champion, a crazy knockout artist who got a title shot against Pantoja in his debut and was quickly and epically submitted. But the dude himself is fun, powerful, and always brings a show. Kai started the fight strong and powerful, outstriking Elliott on the feed, and Tim's feints weren't working. But Elliott didn't panic and switched to his wrestling. He ended the first round with a takedown in top control. And he did the exact same thing in the second, but this time he locked up a tight guillotine on his second attempt and choked out the young Reason champ. Elliott pulled off a massive upset. He was the underdog, and the last time he won with the guillotine was 10 years ago. And now, things got serious. Jared Cannonier versus Michael Venom Page. Cannonier is 41, a powerhouse, a knockout artist, tough as nails, but Father Time is catching up and hungry young killers like Imavov and Barajo have managed to beat him. But he's not done yet. He came back in February and knocked out Gregory Rodriguez, proving it was too early to write him off. And tonight, Michael Page decided to move up a weight class for this intriguing matchup. With a UFC record of 2-1, he couldn't find an opponent in his own division. Everyone was ducking Venom. You all know his style, a flashy kickboxer who never puts his hands up because you couldn't hit him anyway. He built his entire career in Bellator, racking up 1,000 legendary highlight reel knockouts. He tried to become champion there but fell just short, getting KO'd by Lima or out-wrestled by some random grappler. But here he is, with wins over Holland and Shara Bullet, and his only loss to Ian Machado Gary. Page starts out with incredible audacity, moving forward, popping the jab, and making Cannonier miss. Cannonier is completely lost and tries to clinch, but Venom trips him to the mat. After they separate, he explodes with a right hand that drops Cannonier. Cannonier was totally disoriented and immediately switched to wrestler mode. Page just smiled, like, the classic response. In the second round, Page continues to showboat and drops Cannonier again, but instead of finishing, he decides to dance. Cannonier's only answer was to wrestle and even managed one takedown, but he achieved nothing with it and just got booed by the crowd. But in the third, Page makes a mistake. He slips, falls in the center of the octagon, and Cannonier gets on top. Cannonier started trying some nasty stuff: elbows, a Kimura attempt, an arm triangle. But the slippery Venom was like an eel on a frying pan. He squirmed his way out and survived to the bell. By winning the first 2 rounds, Michael Page gets the victory by decision, and his UFC record is now 3-1. But all his wins are by decision, which is kind of meh. The intensity just kept rising from there. Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates. This was old school versus new school. Jeff Neal, a battle-tested veteran who's seen better days, but you can't fake that skill in the pocket. The man can still crack. Carlos Prates is the new breed. Confident, brutally sharp and powerful. His incredible reach lets him hit targets without putting himself in danger, and he uses it perfectly. And in his last fight, despite losing, he shocked everyone with his 5-round cardio. And folks, this was pure violence. Prates immediately starts his thing, throwing razor-sharp strikes with every limb, elbows, hands, legs. Jeff Neal engages in the exchanges and lands some good shots of his own. He was ready to teach the young gun a lesson, but Prates is a sniper. He was way more accurate, landing shot after shot, and started catching Neal with those bony elbows. And then, the exchange. 2 seconds left in the round, and Prates lands a walk-off spinning elbow. Bam! He sends Neal into the shadow realm with a deep knockout. It took them a long time to get him up. Unbelievable! This kid is the real deal. Dana White was losing his mind, and you know Prates is getting a fat bonus for that. In the second to main event of UFC 319, we had a phenomenal fight between
Lerone Murphy and Aaron Pico. Many were saying this could have easily been a title eliminator, and here's why. Lerone the Miracle Murphy is an undefeated, solid, all-around fighter on a 9-fight unbeaten streak, and he took this fight on short notice. He holds wins over Barboza, Don Ige, and even Josh Emmett. He's headlined 2 events and was ranked number 6. He agreed to step in for Movsar Evloev, who was supposed to fight Pico twice, but pulled out both times. And Lerone had one condition. If he won, he would jump Evloev in the title race, which the UFC promised him. His opponent was no joke either. Aaron Pico, the superstar from Bellator they built up for over 8 years before the promotion fell apart. Pico has a high-level Olympic wrestling base and has developed incredible striking, becoming a Golden Gloves champion. As you can imagine, this kid is serious, and a win was crucial for him. The UFC matchmakers were extremely interested in him. Pico came out charging, landing a solid right hand. Lerone did not like that and looked a little rocked, then a massive body shot from Pico. Lerone counters with a hook and tries for a choke, but ends up on the canvas. Aaron was rushing, pressuring, pinning him against the cage, trying for takedowns. You could tell he was nervous and wanted to put on a show. And then, with 90 seconds left in the round, Pico rushes in with an attack, and Lerone Murphy counters with a spinning elbow. Boom! Pico is out cold. Can you believe this? Think about it. We just saw 2 identical, incredibly rare knockouts back-to-back in the UFC. Both Pico and Jeff Neal got dropped by the exact same move and were laid out in the same way. Lerone Murphy gets a magnificent, spectacular victory and is now, without a doubt, the next contender for the championship belt, leapfrogging Movsar Evloev just as he demanded. As for Pico, we wish him a full recovery and can't wait to see him back. And in the main event of the evening at UFC 319, the historic middleweight title showdown, Dricus Du Plessis defended his belt against Khamzat Chimaev. After 5 long years, Khamzat finally made it to a title fight. He carried an 8-fight win streak with names like Burns, Kamaru Usman, and Whitaker on his resume. He possesses unbelievably powerful and suffocating wrestling, loves to explode from the first second, slam his opponents, and break them. He's the guy who hits the nitro boost right from the opening bell. Chimaev was one of the biggest stars in the UFC. Insane hype, charismatic, and you just couldn't miss his fights. But taking the belt from this guy was going to be tough. Dricus came out of nowhere, shot to the top, and had already defended his belt twice. He finished Till, Brunson, Whitaker, Adesanya, and beat Strickland twice. His trademark was having a specific, unique game plan for every single opponent. And afterward, they all said the same thing. He's incredibly strong in the cage, and it's impossible to prepare for his style. For this fight, Dricus focused entirely on his wrestling, bringing the best wrestlers in the world to his camp, claiming he was going to beat Chimaev at his own game. So, how did it all go down? Let's take a look. Just 5 seconds into the fight, Khamzat shoots, dumps Dricus, and gets side control. Then he moves to the crucifix position and spends 3 minutes just pitter-pattering shots to Dricus's forehead. Dricus kept squirming and managed to avoid any real damage. He survives round 1. Round 2, another instant takedown. Chimaev was not slowing down. He throws Dricus to the mat twice and spends all 5 minutes holding him against the fence, landing knees, but again, with no significant damage. The crowd started getting restless. Round 3, here we go again. Another explosive takedown. Chimaev drags him to the canvas, puts him in the center of the octagon, gets the crucifix again, and finally starts dropping heavy, powerful elbows. Bam, bam. But somehow, Dricus twists and turns and survives to the bell, though he's now clearly down 3 rounds to none. Round 4, we got a little bit of striking, but then Dricus was once again taking a trip through the air, surviving, defending his neck, and losing another 5-minute round. And in the 5th round, we actually saw some exchanges. Chimaev even ate a couple of shots, but still easily took Dricus down. To his credit, the champ showed some teeth at the end, landing some good shots and even got a dominant position on the ground for a moment. And that was it. By unanimous decision, Khamzat Chimaev wins all 5 rounds, putting on an absolute masterclass against the champion.
answering every question about his wrestling and his cardio. Who would have thought that Chimaev would win by decision and by taking all 5 rounds? Insane! I predicted on my podcast this could happen, but for 3 rounds max, not 5. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a new middleweight champion, 9-0 in the UFC. Congratulations to Khamzat Chimaev and everyone who was rooting for him. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the breakdown, don't be shy with that like button. Let me know in the comments, what's next for Chimaev, for Dricus, for Murphy and Pico? Let's predict some future fights for all these warriors.